Hi, my name is Ravi Jain. I'm the artistic director of Why Not Theater. So Why Not Theater, we are more than just a theater company. Our work is about city building and activating civic engagement through the arts. So we want to use the arts to make meaningful change for the people who live in cities. And we do that in three ways. We make and tour new work, and that work challenges the status quo of what stories are told and who gets to tell them. The second thing we do is we share our resources to support other artists, artists who are not in the mainstream, marginalized artists, and we share our resources to help them tell their stories and tour their work. And the third thing we do is we provoke change by removing barriers of access to participation in the arts for both artists and audiences. And that's all about systems change. And I'll talk about one of those systems change today. So we're a unique company in that we've grown significantly in the last 4 years. We have an operating budget of $2 million and a full-time team of 10 people. And that is super rare because we don't have a building. And so everyone, as we were growing, said, you got to get a space, go become a new institution, buy a space. And really quickly, we looked at the model and we said, you know, the business model of running a space in a city like Toronto is terrible. Plus, the needs for artists to use space, the need is so great, and the capacity of just one building is reached so quickly that you're not really serving the needs of a community. And not having a venue lets us be flexible. We can be anywhere and everywhere all the time. And worse, the resources that you need to build a space is so huge. So if I raise $6 million to build a theater, well, actually it'd be better spent to give it to the community. We could change the system if we got money in the actual hands of people. So we started asking ourselves questions by saying, you know, there's so much space in the city that isn't used. So what could we do with it if we could get it? What if we could build a new institution? And so we had a vision to say, what if we said, all of Toronto was our theater, all of the empty spaces that existed. What if we thought of that as our theater? How could we get access to it and turn those spaces into artistic spaces? So then the dream became, what if we could make space free for all artists? What kinds of artists would that enable? What kinds of audiences would that eventually bring to the theater? And what could it mean for making a more vibrant city where art plays a key role in the lives of everyday people? So we ran a pilot at the end of last fall where we set out and we activated empty spaces in downtown and turned them into temporary rehearsal halls at no cost to artists. So what we did is we partnered with Crestpoint, which is an investment property developer, the United Churches, and a Portuguese community center called Casa do Alentejo in Little Portugal in Toronto. And with Crestpoint, it was really unique because all of the spaces they provided were in the downtown core. They were offices and commercial buildings. So we got to put arts closer to where people are, right? Like the arts usually happens externalized from where people are. We're on the fringes, or we're at that theater that's far away from, you don't even know where it is probably. So we're getting to be right where people are and potentially changing the people's relationship to the arts because it's where you are. So we acted as a broker between those spaces and the artists. We figured out the insurance, the contracting, the cleaning, security, accountability, all of those things. And it was incredible. So we gave away space to about 50 artists, and that's about 2,500 hours of space that was given away. And in giving it away for free, all of the artists increased their own fees by 63%. So they got to pay themselves better. Artists are among the working poor, especially BIPOC artists, which we'll get to, the working poor. So here's an opportunity to activate this space and actually pay themselves better. And we ran the space pilot at $9,000 was the running of the cost. So all in, we were able to run the program at $3.50 an hour. $3.50 an hour was the rate if you look at it that way. So like I said, the outcomes, we activated these empty spaces. Nobody was using them. The artists got to pay themselves better, so providing economic support. And then BIPOC artists, you know, we had obviously a desire to support those folks who we work with the most, and providing access, providing that resource just allows them to actually develop skills, earn money, and actually make better art. So successful pilot ran, awesome. Then COVID in the middle of our phase 2 of the pilot. And COVID revealed a whole new way of looking at this problem of space. So COVID revealed some challenges for the arts, made them very pressing. Even though people had known this for a while, it really revealed the economic precarity of most artists. working poor, very hard to sustain a living as an artist, and often you're subsidizing your own career through your pockets. Then there was the racial reckoning that emerged in the time of COVID. So obviously exposing the systemic barriers for artists of color, Black artists, Indigenous artists, and the divide of being able to practice your art. And then it emphasizes the relationship and cost of space. And like in Montreal, like in Toronto, Vancouver, major cities, it's getting increasingly expensive to live here and work here. So that's exposed the problems of the arts. For real life, real life people, we're all real life people. But for Main Street, let's say, COVID exposed the problem of now more and more offices and commercial spaces are becoming empty. And also, people are dealing with the physical and mental impacts of COVID, and the PTSD of it is going to be a long-term effect. So when we think about that, how can we, for us, we started saying, how can we think of a way where artists can play a role in the recovery of a COVID relief strategy for a city? How can we take the challenges that the art sector is facing and the challenges that Main Street are facing and collide them to find a better solution? So one example in this space idea is artists have a ton of transferable skills. And so if we could provide free space to those artists to, for example, teach a yoga class, run an after-school kids program in the arts. Obviously, COVID safety precautions need to be considered, but then those Main Street people can pay a fee to that artist, help generate income for that artist, and get a service like a yoga class or taking care of your kids for 2 hours. Oh my God, on Zoom, we all know the stresses of that. So providing a service for Main Street to help through the recovery, activate these empty spaces, because we all know these empty spaces, it's not good for a city. It's not good for the energy, the vibrancy of a city. So here's just one example of a way where we can integrate the arts, activate spaces, and provide services for everyday people. And we're working with the Canadian Urban Institute to figure out ways to incentivize business owners, property developers, property managers through, for example, a tax abatement. If a property developer has a space in the meanwhile time when it's not being used, could the city provide them a tax abatement if it's provided to artists at no cost? And then again, providing services for people. And we have this cycle where arts is actually playing a role in the recovery of COVID. Now, the majority of support for the arts and the relationship to arts in a city is through buildings. It's institutions. And it's true that we need them, they're important. But we also need to build and support an infrastructure that's about people, not just buildings. And our vision is to open up spaces as a way of investing in people who can actually activate communities. Artists, we know that they do that. And opening up the barrier of space to those artists, we believe can unlock incredible potential for us as a city and for the people who live in it. So if we can make more access to spaces, we can maximize the existing resources that we have to imagine a new and healthier way of looking at how everyday spaces can transform into artistic lifelines, providing a necessary economic and mental health support to create vibrant cities.